I was reading this very interesting article about how an auto rickshaw driver went from being an auto rickshaw driver to a full-time fruit and vegetable vendor right now. It might not seem like a lot to a lot of us, but consider this. This is someone who's been driving an auto rickshaw for close to 20, 30 years. And in just a few days, he converted his auto rickshaw into a fully functional mini mobile market. He's been supplying basic amenities like fruit and vegetables and groceries to independent homes, to apartment blocks, and also to government offices. Challenges sometimes can bring out the best in us, and also at times when we least expect that to happen. At MyndBytes, we explore these challenges, we see how we adapt to these challenges, how do we handle these challenges, and also how people have been innovating in the process. I was also very interested when I heard some of the changes that the game of golf has brought about. Now let's understand from our speaker today, Mr. Hari Natarajan, what are some of those things that we can actually learn from the changes that golf has brought about in its game? Hari Natarajan, he's a founder and CEO of Teetime Ventures that manufactures world-class golf simulators. He's also a consultant to a lot of organizations, primarily in the sporting and sport consulting business. He has a master's in engineering from Clemson University. He also holds a bachelor's of engineering degree from Bangalore University. Right? Hari comes with over 20 years of experience, right? So he's held senior management positions with a lot of organizations. He's worked at CXO levels as well. Some of the companies he's worked with include Tejas Networks, Foundry Networks, Lucent, and Alcatel. So let's listen to Hari and understand some of the things we can take back from the game of golf, given the changes that they brought about in the game. And what is it that we can learn in the process and maybe take back and apply these in our professional and in our personal spaces as well, right? So, right. So it's an absolute pleasure, Hari, having you agreeing to come on our show and, sharing some of these interesting, innovative ideas that you brought to the market, right? So before we get into what you do and also focusing
Thank you,
on,
Afeef.
yeah, and also looking at some of the, the dynamics of the current situation, right? So I just would like to hear from you. What are some of the changes that you've seen in your own business over the past 4 to 5 years?
Well, that's something interesting. When I first got started, a lot of people had not even heard of golf simulators in India. And when I was telling some of my friends that, hey, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to quit my job and start my own firm, and this is what I'm planning to do. A lot of people told me, "Are you crazy? Is there even a market for this in India? And what are you going to do now, right? I mean, how are you going to get started?" So
Right.
it was actually a challenge. And over time now, we have actually seen the market adopt the product. We've been reasonably successful. We started off, my first break came from Leela Palace, Bangalore.
Okay.
And it just moved north from there, right? I mean, we are in some of the major builders in Bangalore. We are in corporate campuses like Infosys, Cisco.
Okay.
And in fact, some of the builders in Pune and Hyderabad have also adopted a product.
Okay.
So it started. It was a tough 2 years to get started, but slowly the product is getting traction. People are beginning to see value. In fact, it's a fantastic tool for people to actually learn to play golf. We have seen a lot of people in Cisco. They have a simulator on campus for employees. So what this has done is it has introduced golf to people to whom the sport would have been inaccessible.
Right.
And we have actually seen people develop skills and actually learn to play the sport there, right?
Okay.
So this is a great way for people to get introduced to it, people to get better at it, right? I mean,
Right.
and also experience the sport. So we've seen a shift, and it's for the good. And let's see now with the current environment, we're not really sure which way things are going to go, but it's wait and watch over the last month and a half, whatever has happened around the world. It's a wait and watch for everybody. We're hoping that since this can also be used as a personal tool for people in their private homes to set up a simulator. We're hoping that there may be better adoption in private residences, though that's also another segment we've started targeting.
Great, right? So people don't have to go to the golf course to learn to play the game or just to play the game. They come to your the place where you set the simulator up and it's just get to experience and enjoy the game of golf, right? Is it for,
Absolutely.
I heard you mention that, this can be played by anybody, right? You want to set this up in residences. You have a lot of IT parks in India who have your simulator set up, right? So do you have to be, a golf lover, or, do you have to be a golf aspirant to play the game, or is it open to anybody?
The sport, it's like any other sport or any other activity, right? I mean, it's like me. I'm not a musician. I don't play any musical instrument. But today, if I want to learn to play the guitar, I can pick up a guitar and start learning it, right? There is no age bar. And the nice thing about this is you actually hit a real golf ball. The machine gives you, it shows you the ball flight on a screen. It gives you a lot of the statistics in terms of everything from ball speed to club speed to club angle, various other diagnostic statistics. So it's a fantastic tool if you have a coach there who can actually help you get started from zero, right? Teach you on how to hold the club, teach you with your grips, starting right from there. They can actually teach you to learn to play the golf because you're actually hitting a ball. And you're seeing in real time, you're seeing on a screen what your ball would have done had you hit it out in a driving range, right?
Great.
So with all of this, and for golfers, it's also a great tool to improve your skills because it gives you a lot of diagnostic information, which will help you fine tune your swing and fine tune your game.
Okay, great. Sounds very interesting, Hari, right? And I also understand that anybody who's never, held a golf club in a hand can also go ahead and play this game, right? So can I say that, can I also say that you're sort of breaking the ceiling in terms of golf being this elite sport, and now anyone has access to play the game, at least get to understand the nuances of the game? Can I comfortably
Absolutely. In fact, when I got started, that was one of the main reasons. I got started very late in life in golf, and I really, really fell in love with the game. So when we moved to India back in 2007, that is when I had barely gotten started with the game. And as you know, access to the sport in India is very difficult. The courses are few and far between, and there are various restrictions like memberships, or some of the new private courses that are out there are way out there, way out of the city, right? So just getting there and back will take you an hour and a half to 2 hours just to get to the course. If you really look, the simulators have been very popular in Europe and America, where especially in colder parts of the country where golfers cannot get out during winter. So they continue playing the sport using the simulators. Likewise, at a place like Southeast Asia, let's say you look at Korea, simulators are extremely popular in Korea, and they call it screen golf because you play golf against a screen. And it's as common as having video game parlors, right? I mean, when Afeef and you and I grew up in Bangalore, if you go to the MG Road, Brigade Road area, there are a whole bunch of these video game parlors that were there, and we used to go there, right? I mean, similar to that, every neighborhood has a screen golf, a location for screen golf, and people go play. Because in places like Korea, real estate is a big challenge. Places like Japan, real estate is a big challenge. So some of these places where real estate is a challenge, they have used this to kind of continue playing the game. In places like Europe and US, where weather is a challenge, they have used this to continue playing the game during the cold months. And my idea here was access to courses in general is difficult in India. Now, why not use technology to try to see if we can bring that access to people, right? That is the whole intent in me starting this. And fortunately for me, I got a lucky break at the Leela Palace, Bangalore, and that's where the first publicly accessible facility was set up.
Great. And I have seen that facility as well, right? So I've seen a lot of non-golfers come and, have a swing, and, it's set up at the Leela Palace, like you mentioned, right? So it's very interesting. You brought in your experience in, having driven technology firms to different levels of success. You brought in your passion for the game. You brought in your sense for, your drive of being an entrepreneur. You merged all these three. I was quite curious about the other part, right? How did this program just golf for it? How did that mature, right? So we've seen a sport, we've seen technology, we've seen how accessible it is. Just a few words in terms of A little bit on this program called Just Golf for It. Now, how do you bring in the whole leadership and the behavior part into the program?
Afeef, see, golf has got a lot of parallels to business, right? And let's start off, right? I've got maybe 3 or 4 points that let me speak about in terms of similarities.
Okay.
One is the game is self-policed. Unlike cricket, if you're going and playing a round of golf with your friends, they expect you to play true to the rules of the game. Nobody is there watching you saying that, hey, did you double hit it? Have you moved the ball around or not? I mean, for the rules of the game, you play the ball as it lies and you move on. And the people that you play with trust that you've done the right thing, which is very similar in business, right? There are certain rules that are laid out on how, both from a regulatory perspective and from ethics perspective, there are certain rules that businesses need to follow. So that is inherent in the culture of the business as to how well they want to follow that and what path a business has to take. The other thing is businesses take on personality of the leaders, right? Either if it's small business, personality of the owner, or large businesses, corporates, personality of the leadership team. Likewise, in golf, how a game is played also depends on the personality of the person playing it. Are you playing something which is high risk, high reward, or are you playing it conservatively? When you get into tough situations, how do you manage the situation, right? You also know that there are a lot of things in business that are out of one's control, right? There are a lot of uncontrolled. For example, the current situation is something nobody has expected, something that has affected every business in every part of the world. Right? It could be macroeconomic conditions. It could be climatic conditions. It could be everything from economic policies. Right? A lot of things could affect a business. Likewise, in golf as a sport, there are a lot of things that are beyond your control. Everything from the terrain to the design of the course to the weather, be it rain, be it wind factors, and again, if you look on a lighter side of things, as we say, sometimes you hit a good shot and you get a bad break, and you hit a bad shot and you get a good break, right? You hit a bad shot, it bounces off of a rock or a tree and then falls into the place where you want the ball to fall. Right. Likewise, same thing happens in business too, right? I mean, you've been working really hard on a project or on a deal where you put in a lot of effort, investments, time, all of that, and finally things don't go through, right? That's again, put in a lot of effort, do the right things, but a bad break. And once in a while, you just so happen to be there at the right place at the right time, and certain deal falls in place. This can again be true, especially for people in sales, right? I mean, if you've got a new salesperson coming in and taking over a role, the whole region or the business, a lot of legwork could have been done by the person that was previously there, but the deal might close once a new person comes in. Again, right? Bad shot, good break kind of a thing, right? So the other thing also in golf, it's not just, it's every shot that matters. For example, when you tee off, you have a bad shot, you can actually, playing some good shots, you can actually recover from that and still try to make par. Right? Likewise, again, in business, you start off with a strategy, may work, may not work. A lot of times decisions are taken by businesses keeping the current situation and the data one has in mind, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean everything will go your way. If it doesn't go your way, then you may have to quickly regroup and strategize and maybe pivot and go in a different direction, or change path or change tactics to get to where you are. So you can draw a lot of parallels in business to golf. And the whole thought was that now, if you have a tool that's like a simulator that is available, which is a closed environment where you can bring a group of people together, teach them, starting with everything from introducing the concept of golf, make people comfortable in an environment where they are comfortable with the terminologies of the game, they know the concept of the game, they know the rules, and also give them a little bit of exposure to how the game is played, and draw parallels to business in terms of every step of the way. One of the things that we have seen is, let's say a ball gets hit into the trees. We have seen some business leaders who have been through this program. you can actually observe what they do. You've seen somebody take a high risk and try to just hit it straight from there and go for it and try to hit the ball, try to land it on the green. We've seen others just hit it out into a safe area where they know they are comfortable with hitting it, and from there it's okay to take an extra shot, right? Again, it is high risk, high reward. How you want to play the game.
Very interesting personal dynamics also, sort of start getting played out based on what I hear from what you're saying, right? So it's not just from a business perspective, but I think a lot of learning at an individual level as well, right? So I think the way you look at things from a long range perspective to a short range perspective, how you look into things from, let's say from a broader perspective, and as you're coming closer to your goal, what are some of the dynamics that change again, right? So very interesting things that you've actually shared, Hari, right? And it's really interesting that, like I mentioned, you brought in the whole concept of golf itself, right? Leverage technology, and co-created the entire the game around it, right? Which sort of takes people through not just having to experience the game, but have some very deep insights in the process again, right? So I think that's a fantastic opportunity that people have in terms of being able to go out and explore this. Looking at, again, we can't just not talk about how things have changed in the recent past, right? So I'd like to hear from you in terms of what has changed in the recent past, not just from your business perspective, right? But you've shared a lot about golf. What has the sport also done in the recent weeks? Have there been some changes, right? How have they been handling these recent these drastic changes where a lot of sports people I've seen Formula One races are they've gotten onto a co-shared or a co-played game, and they sort of raced against each other, and they have a lot of spectators watching this game as well, right? So they understand the value in terms of their sport being a spectator sport, and still they're able to give some level of excitement and value to the spectators, given that the season or the race got postponed, right? So and anything from your side in terms of golf and some of the changes that we've seen in golf, maybe you can also share a few things that in your business as well, right? What are some of those things that have changed in your business in the recent past?
Yeah, interesting that you asked this, Afeef, because the industry has gone through a lot. So if you look at a country like India, per our lockdown mandate, golf courses have to shut down. Right. So golf courses have had a tough time here in terms of both now. One is, how do you take care of the course in itself, right? The course requires, for it to be playable, it needs to be maintained. It needs to be fertilized. It needs to be watered. It needs to be mowed, and all the other operational aspects that go into it. Right. Those have all come to a grinding halt in India. So when people get started again, it's going to take them, in my opinion, anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks to get the course up to like a semi-playable state. But that being said, in different parts of the world, golf as a sport, they have allowed people to go out and play, but they have put certain restrictions in place to maintain both social and physical distancing. So as a sport in itself, this is inherent to physical distancing, purely from the fact that you have a 3 foot, 4 foot long club that swings at about 100, 125 kilometers an hour. So you need to maintain physical distance just to not get hit by a swinging club, or be too close to being hit by a ball that's also moving, a projectile that's moving at a very high speed, right? So from that perspective, people are able to maintain physical and social distance. But again, the game, the courses, they have gone through in places where they have allowed the game to continue to be played. They have made a lot of changes. For example, they have cut out all the frills. There are no golf carts. There are no caddies. Clubhouses have actually closed, meaning that a lot of clubhouses offer you restaurant services, bar services, gym services, a lot of these things, right, that people are used to. A lot of them have been cut out because those are all areas where people congregate in close proximity. The other thing that has also happened is, for example, since you don't have a caddy and a golf cart, they've forced people to carry their bags and walk. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you really look at it, the only place where people come into close proximity is on a putting green near a hole, where people you hit a ball into the hole, then you reach out and you pick up the ball. So what
Okay.
clubs have done is either they have sealed off the holes or raised the cups a little bit such that the ball doesn't go into the hole, and then marked a circle depending on the club between, let's say, a 1 foot or a 2 foot radius around the hole, right? I mean, different clubs have adopted different rules. For example, some clubs say that it hits the cup that has been raised and stays within a certain radius. You can count that in as a putt.
Okay.
Certain other clubs have said that if the ball just stops within a 1 foot or a 2 foot radius of a circle that is there, then you add one more stroke and then you are done, right?
Okay.
So a lot of rules themselves have been modified to accommodate to the current situation. A lot of changes like these have taken place. The other interesting thing that we have seen is another aspect of a golf course actually is the driving range and the academy that goes with it, right? So this is another place where people go either to get instruction or to get better at their game. So what coaches have also done now is they have now taken this online. So if you are currently getting instruction on a one-to-one basis now, the coaches have taken this online and then they make you record. They give you drills, they make you record the drills and send it back, and there is back and forth and evaluation of your progress. The other thing that that's very interesting that has happened is a lot of coaches have actually gone online. They've started doing webinars, they've started doing sessions that some of these that used to be paid are now free. So people are now trying to reach out globally. A lot of content, digital content is currently being generated. People are now they've gone to the effect saying that, hey, you're at home. What do you do? How do you practice? What kind of drills can you do at home with just your clubs? How do you get your posture right? How do you get your grip right? How do you get your rhythm right? A lot of things like this. Now people have said that you can do it in the confines of your home without stepping out. So this is also something that people are pushing hard. So it's giving something for people who are used to playing golf to do, at the same time keeping people engaged. Another thing that one can take away from this is how businesses can continue to stay engaged with their customers, right? It's all about engagement. You don't want to get into a situation of, as they say, out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
This is a good time to be engaged. And also now see what best you can do, right? How best you can work with the situation. Some businesses today have the ability or the luxury to take their business online or look at alternative ways of doing business. Some businesses, due to the nature of the businesses, cannot do that, but those that can should really explore how they can provide their product or service using alternative methods. You never know, right? I mean, you find this to be profitable, you find this to be another channel or revenue for you to generate revenue. One could continue this post the COVID situation, right? I mean, it's all about trying something different, trying something new, because this is also something that your customers may accept something new that you're trying to do, which they might not have accepted earlier because the situation has forced one to adopt something new, right?
I think that's very true, Hari, right? And I think a lot of things that you've shared are absolutely. I was just amazed when you mentioned that the golf. So you don't you have a cup that's slightly elevated, and if the ball hits the cup, then that's counted as a hole, right? Or if the ball bounces off from the cup and it falls within a certain perimeter. So I'm sure a lot of thinking has gone into making sure that the rules are slightly modified, keeping the way things are right now. Very interesting to hear that a lot of golf coaches are still connected with their community and offering free services. I think this is also the time where you would want to come across as someone who's really credible and not opportunist, for example, right?
Yes.
So, however you can connect with with the community, right? With your customers, I'm sure with your social and business networks. Very interesting to hear how golf as a sport has actually brought about these changes in so short a time. And like you mentioned as well, right? So how are people who are connected in whatever way they can, right? So it is interesting to hear the golf coaches reaching out and connecting with their communities. I wouldn't be surprised if in not too long from now, you come up with the next version of your golf simulator where you have a tournament where people are just swinging in their own in the halls and boardrooms, and they're actually playing maybe a big virtual tournament in the process, right? Because the beauty of what
actually, that is already on as we speak, Afeef.
Okay.
So there are these platforms. In fact, the software that we use allows you to play these virtual tournaments with people around the world. So you can actually pick and choose courses that the pros play in. For example, if you want to play your own version of the Masters, you can choose Augusta, get together with a bunch of your friends or somebody across the world who's got the same software, who's got the ability to play within the confines of their own space. So these tournaments are already on. So actually, if you look at it, this is.
Do you have someone in India doing that right now?
So it's all about the platform, right? I mean, once you've got connected, because the platform that we offer allows you to do this. Unfortunately, all of these are in public. All of these, right? So in fact, as we speak, we're also working on a private residence. Hopefully it will get completed as soon as the lockdown is over. So if these facilities are in private residences or in places where people have access to today, they can very well go online and play. There are tournaments that are continuously being held. You can form your own group. You can form your own, set up your own tournament and play. So it's a fantastic tool to kind of collaborate with people, not only in your city, in your country, but across the world. These are all people who have access to the same platform.
Okay, great. Fantastic, Hari. I think there's a lot of inputs, and it's always interesting when you hear hear it from a different perspective, from a different from a very interesting to, like I said, how you've been able to relate what is happening in the game of golf, and the innovation that the golfing industry has has brought in. So you've become like a little spokesperson for the golfing industry itself, right? And incredible what you're doing with your simulators, right?
Thank you.
And the kind of recreational and also leadership programs that you've been doing. So thank you once again, Hari, for taking the time.
Thank you, Afeef.
Absolute pleasure having you on our little show. And there are a lot of takeaways. I'm sure people get to know more about what you do, and you're able to engage with them and share your knowledge from not just being a former IT CX level person, but also in terms of this tremendous amount of innovative thought process that you bring in as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Afeef. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for having me on MyndBytes. It's a fantastic platform that you've got. It's a great way to connect with people and also disseminate a lot of information. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you once again, and wishing you all the best. Thank you again.
Thank you.